Welcome, everybody. I'm James Leichter, Aptora, another company training, and we're recording this so we can share it with our clients. Today, I wanted to talk about a feature that I'm afraid a lot of people don't use in Total Office Manager. It's our credit card feature. A lot of people, I have noticed, just simply write a check to pay their credit card, and they list all of the credit card charges on the check. So, for example, they open up a check, and I've seen them do this with a bill too, but oftentimes they'll open up a check like this one. They'll go to the expense tab, and they will basically replicate their credit card statement. All the things that they've bought with a credit card, they'll put it in this check and they'll pay their credit card. And although that works, the problem with that is the date of the check is when you recognize all of those expenses. And what you really want is you want to recognize all of those expenses on the date they actually occurred, which could be June 1, 3, 6, 17, 18, etc. So it's not a good idea to write a check for all those credit card charges. When you use the credit card system, the check date is not the date of the expense. It just happens to be the date that you are paying the expense, but all those expenses hit your general ledger, your income statement, on the proper day. So don't write a check with all your credit card charges in it. Use the credit card charge feature. Let's go to Preferences, Chart of Accounts, and let's make sure that the Smart Account Selection Filtering is turned on. When I turn this on, it will filter my chart of account, my GL codes, as a lot of people call them. It'll filter those to the most likely selections. Otherwise, it allows me to pick things that maybe are wrong. So in other words, if I were to open up my chart of accounts, this is what I'm talking about. There's many things here that you just probably would never pick when you're doing your credit card charges. And I'm hiding those with that feature. Let's go back to banking, manage credit cards. We have four things to talk about here. Entering credit card charges, entering a credit card credit. So maybe you went back to Walmart, got a refund, they put it back on your credit card. We want to enter that credit card charge. Pardon me, we want to enter that credit card credit. It's basically a credit card charge in reverse. We have a list of all of our credit card charges and credits as we have throughout Total Office Manager. And then we can verify and pay the credit card. And that's basically the bank reconciliation feature. It just reconciles a credit card, which is a bank, technically. Let's start by opening up the credit card list. This list works like all the others. You have various fields to select and search. You have form preferences, show columns. So get that looking the way you want it. You have all the filters available to you that you've seen elsewhere, including the smart list. But I would definitely recommend putting in user filters and global filters to help you go in here and figure things out. We can right click for options like void a credit card transaction. You could delete one. Let's say something real quick about this. I don't like deleting anything. The only time I want to delete something is when I absolutely did not mean to do it. Not that I changed my mind, I didn't mean to do it. I put in something and I shouldn't have. Like I duplicated a credit card transaction, I might delete it. But I don't want to give permission to delete to everybody. I might give permission to delete to only advanced users. Most everybody should void because that leaves a trail for everybody to look at. There are many companies that forbid deleting. There's many software programs, accounting software programs, big ones, where deleting is not even possible. So you should rarely ever delete anything. Let's put in a new credit card charge. First thing you do is pick the credit card you're dealing with. I'll say I'm dealing with my American, it's my Visa. Let's do my Visa card. And where did I buy this item? Let's say that we bought it from Home Depot. On the credit card charge, there should be a reference number. And by the way, I could be looking at a credit card charge or the internet. I could have logged into Home Depot, or pardon me, logged into my Visa card and saw the charge because maybe the technician hasn't given it to me yet. That's possible. And I'm going to get a head start. And we do that here at Aptora. The people that take care of this are very particular about timing, and they go in and get a head start. So I'm going to enter the reference number, very important. If you want to use the stage feature, it's available here. I'll skip that. Always use a memo. So we'll type in something like pipe fittings. It could have been gasoline at a gas station, whatever, but let's always use a memo. And I believe in being very robust. I'm just typing in something quickly, but I would put in detailed memos. And now, if we bought an item from Home Depot, an item that is in our system, then we would use the items tab. If we bought something like gasoline from a gas station, we would use the expense tab and we would go find gasoline or fuel, or whatever you call it. If you paid rent, you'd use the expense tab. If you bought office supplies, you might use the expense tab, unless you put in an item called office supplies. You'd probably use the expense tab. But at Home Depot, we'd use the items tab. You could have a catch-all item in here called non-stock, because this is just not something that I want to track. And what bought it? What truck did it go into? Truck 1, maybe. So we'll leave that at truck 1. And why did it pick truck 1? Because I've associated truck 1 with this user that I've logged in as, Ashley Adams. And this could have been a whole bucket full of parts, and you just don't want to track them. You bought a bunch of pipe fittings. So what was the total cost of all those items? $77.88. And the description, you would put in a description of what was bought out there. And I'll say that that was pipe fittings. Now, what I'd really prefer that you do is not what I'm doing. All right? Do as I say, not as I do. My mom told me that all the time. I'd rather have you not use a non-stock item. I'd like to see the pipe fittings already exist in here, and I'd like to see you go find them. And it's more work, but it's better. So I'd like you to go find that pipe fitting, find that other pipe fitting. And if you're in a hurry, use the non-stock, but come back and fix it later. And you can fix this later. As long as the amount doesn't change, you can change the items in here. So in other words, use the non-stock if you're in a hurry, but please come back and fix it. Add these items to the system and fix this. You'll probably buy those items again. So you're really not saving yourself any time. You're just delaying the work. Now, don't forget, you could use the item lookup feature. And the item lookup feature allows you to more easily find the various items that you're looking for. So I might type in the word pipe. Maybe I don't know the part number. And now look at all these pipe fittings. So these are all black steel pipe fittings right there. Let's pretend like that's what we bought. And I can change the quantity. You know, he got 4 of those, and he got 2 of these, and he got 1 of those, and he got 2 of those, and that one I accidentally put on here, or that one, and I'll take it off. See how easy it is to work with? And I don't know if you care about the order, but you can change the order too. So just grab something and move it around so the order is the same as the receipt. and now click OK, and you got all those. And this will give you better reports, better job costing, better everything. So let's get that non-stock thing off there. That's a no-no. The non-stock is good for your technician in the field when they create a PO and they've never bought it before. We don't allow them to add items so they can use that non-stock. That's fine, but I don't like using it in the office. So this is a good-looking credit card charge. I double-checked the date, and maybe this happened on the 11th. So I backdate it, and I hit save and close. Now remember, I could have done this from a PO. So if there was a purchase order created, I could have done it from a PO. And in fact, it would have told me that there was a PO. When I picked Home Depot, it would have said, hey, you got a PO. You want to enter against that PO? Yes, I do. And you've seen that before in item receipts, the receive items feature. This is identical to the receive items feature. The only difference is we had to tell it what credit card it was. All right, so we'll hit save and close, and we got that credit card charge in there. It's done. Now, your company just recognized COGS, cost of goods sold. If they were set up as non-inventory parts, that is. If they were set up as inventory parts, your company now has a liability. So on your balance sheet, we have an accounts payable to who? Home Depot? No, they got paid already. Our liability is to Visa, so it'll be under credit cards. Now, I should go ahead and say something real quick here. Let's go to our chart of accounts, and let's search for Visa so we can see that. Because how did the Visa get in there? I skipped that part. And I should include that. We created a chart of account, and we do have a chart of account type called credit card. And we put in the name of the card, Visa card, and card number. I wouldn't put in the whole card number there, but I'd put in like the last four, 5411. It's the last four right there. And that way you have it on file. And then also what you could do is you could add it to the end, just so you know what card you're dealing with. But I wanted to make sure we got that on the recording since we're going to share this with the public. That's how you set up that credit card. And you notice I went and renamed it. Doesn't hurt anything. It changed everything just fine. You can see we have a balance right there. There's the balance, what we owe them. That's going to be on your balance sheet. Now, we have a credit. So we ended up returning one of those items. Let's deal with that. We're either on the internet looking at our Visa account, which again, that's a good idea because not everybody's going to turn in their receipts quick enough for you, and some are going to get lost. So let's go to banking and manage credit cards, enter a credit. And I could have right-clicked on this list too, couldn't I? Now we're going to deal with a credit. So the first thing we do is pick the credit card, Visa card. And we find Home Depot. And it says, do you want to recall the last transaction for this vendor? So what it's going to do is it's going to look at the last thing I entered and duplicate it. And you know what? Maybe I do. Because the last thing I entered is what I want to get a credit on. So let's go to our items tab, and we've made a duplicate of it. Now there's different ways to do this. This is one way. Double check that date. So we ended up returning an item on the 15th. Remember, we did the job and we didn't need some things. So now I'm going to put my finger on the enter button because I have to do these one at a time. I'm going to delete what we kept. Oh, I forgot. It's not asking me, are you sure you want to delete? I thought it was going to. So what I'm doing is I'm deleting the things that we did not return. Now, I could have done this manually. Keep that in mind. I could have gone in here and did a credit and just added the item. I could have done that. I just chose to do it this way. So these are the things that we're returning. Double check my date, put in my memo, and pipe fittings. So we'll say that we returned pipe fittings that were not needed. Now, also, you should, in real life, memo your particular line items in many cases. So you'd want to put in a note about each line item if necessary. And also, keep in mind, in the real world, we might very well have a job selected or a customer that we were dealing with, and possibly the work order that we were dealing with. And that's good too. If you're buying things for a certain job or customer, be sure you pick the customer. If you did that in the PO, you have nothing to worry about because it'll be in here for you. If the technician made a PO in the field from their work order, you have nothing to worry about. It'll be in here for you. But be sure you pick the customer. And if there's a work order, why not pick it? The work order doesn't affect your financials, but it just provides better tracking. And that's it. So we have this credit in here. Now the software is going to complain that the reference number is a duplicate. So I need to fix that because on my credit card credit, it's going to have a different reference number, but I'm going to actually take that number and paste it there. And now I'll put in the real memo or reference number and save and close. My administrator has disallowed selling out of stock items. Returning this item will make the quantity on hand for this less than 0. All right, so we will, that it highlighted that item, we'll get rid of that just so it doesn't complain. And there we are. All right, so we sold out of stock, and that's a feature in preferences. Do you want to allow it or not? I don't like allowing people to sell into the negative, and we were in the negative when we got that message. So I'm going to go down and say, allow selling of 0 quantity. That's not the one. Allow, there it is. Allow selling out of stock. And notice it says, are you crazy? And it wants the password for the admin. And I happen to know it. Oh, I thought I knew it. Huh. I don't know it. I should know the admin password, but there you go. So if you don't know the admin password, you're not going to be able to change that setting. And when you do, it's written to the audit trail. Back to banking. Now we have a charge and a credit. As long as we had the customer's name in there, then we've credited the job costing report too, because we didn't need those parts. We returned them. Now you could have kept them for inventory, but we don't want to do that generally. We want to have a truck stock list and live with it. It's okay to go to Home Depot and buy a few extra things if the office says you can in order to get your truck stock list up to date. But you do not want to allow people to buy parts whenever they feel like it, get themselves a few extras. That's not allowed. Let's deal with paying that credit card off. So we have two options. We can reconcile the credit card, or we can make a payment. Let's say, for example, we're coming up on our limit and we need to pay down the credit card. Just give them $5,000. Well, you can do that. Or you can just pay the whole credit card. And I want to pay the whole credit card. First thing I need to do is pick the credit card, pick the statement date. Haven't done this in a while. In this database, it hasn't been done in a long time. Generally, you wouldn't see such an old date here. You'd see like the last time you reconciled. So I'll type in a different date to get us going. All right, so it tells us that our last reconciliation was at the end of 14, and this is a demo database that I set up from scratch. Previous balance 8912. What's the new balance? So you're looking at your credit card statement to see what the new balance is, and let's say it's $12,000. Credit card payment method. How do you pay the credit card? Do you want to create a check? Do you want to create a bill that you pay later? Do you want to reconcile with a partial payment now? Like you can't afford to pay the whole thing, or you're paying part of it to get your balance down off your high limit? Or do you want to reconcile now without a payment? So let's say that you're reconciling your credit card today, but you don't actually have to pay them for a week. My advice is keep your money for a week. Even if you're rich and you got lots of money in the bank, keep that money as long as you can. It's a good habit in case you're ever poor. The fastest way to get rich is to act poor, by the way. So I want to keep that money. Even if I have a lot of money in the bank, I want to keep it and pay them at the last minute. So I'm going to create a bill for payment later. Were there any interest charges, finance charges? Hopefully not. I pay as late as I can, but I always avoid interest. So hopefully there's no interest charge, but you would put it on here. You could also create a line item on a credit card charge if you wanted to, called interest. But typically putting it here is fine. If you have multiple finance charges, interest charges, fees, don't do that here. Put it on a credit card charge. Create a credit card charge just for those other fees that are for things that you didn't buy. Finance charges, fees, chargebacks, whatever. Be sure to date that correctly. So look at your statement, and if there's a finance charge, and let's just put one on here for the heck of it, even though that's just totally against everything I believe, make sure the date matches that charge. And then what account does that go to? You have to pick the account to recognize that expense. So you might have something in here called interest or penalties, fines, something like that. And you want to be sure to pick it. So that's an expense. So I'd be looking at my expenses. And I won't spend a lot of time looking for the right thing. Oh, there it is. Good. Okay. So now I'm ready to hit continue. By the way, if I messed up my last reconciliation, I can undo it with this button. Now, this is just like the paper way of doing it. You probably have reconciled your bank account using a paper method. This is a lot like that. You'll see on the left side all of your credit card charges, and you are basically verifying them. So if you have done a manual reconciliation, then you have gone through and crossed off all these items. You want to make sure that your screen here matches what they say happened. So you look at this, that's correct. 182.44, that's correct, that's correct, that's correct. Wait a minute, that's not right. So you look down at your statement and you see that somebody messed up something. You got to fix it. The amount is wrong. The date is wrong. Double click it. You might go in here and fix it. Just double click on the item. Now, if you have to leave here to fix something, be sure to hit the save button. Hit save. Then go fix it, and then come back and hit the refresh button. It'll refresh this info without losing your changes, and you'll see the corrected charge. Let's say all those look good. Now over here, it will show payments that we've made, and we want to be sure that those payments have been recognized. Like, for example, we paid them $89.12. Do they show that payment? Yes, they do. And we have a credit here from Home Depot, $731. Are they showing that credit? Maybe they're not. Maybe it hasn't happened yet. If we don't check that, it'll be here next time. And eventually we'll have to investigate it to find out why we don't have it. All right, so we'll go ahead and check that box. We have some tools down here like mark all, unmark all, hide transactions appearing after the statement date. So you entered a statement date. You may not want to see transactions that have been added after the statement date. And that is helpful when you're dealing with hundreds of things. You have a button here to enter a charge because maybe you don't see it and somebody forgot, or enter a credit. Down here, it says that you have the $5 interest or finance charge. It shows the ending balance. And that's what we typed in before, and we can modify it by hitting this button. It'll take us back to that last screen. So it shows the ending balance that I typed in, and I had no idea what to type in, so I just typed in $12,000. The cleared balance is $51,569. So it's telling us you've got a difference of $6,848.31. I'm going to have to justify that difference on the next screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify what I entered, because in the real world, I would have known not to just type in 12,000 randomly. I would have had a cleared balance to enter. So I'm going to hit save, make sure I save, go to modify, come back here, and again, to just recap this, my statement shows a previous balance of $89,1207, and it's paid, and they're happy. The new balance that I supposedly owe is $51,5169. That's what's on the new statement. We don't know if it's true yet, but that's what they claim. So we'll hit continue. And then when you and I get done with the work that I just described, it should hopefully say a difference of 0. If it doesn't, you've got to play detective work. You have to go around looking for charges that weren't recorded. You have to find charge slips, etc. You might have to double check. You might have to get all those credit card slips and double check them against what was entered. This will show you what was entered, but maybe it was wrong. So you're going to have to play detective work. It's also possible that somebody messed up the last bank rec, and you might have to go change that. You might have to get rid of it and start over. So that happens. If you've done this, you know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, a lot of times you have to go correct things because that 0 doesn't show up, and it's always a sad thing. Now I'm ready to reconcile. So what am I doing? I'm telling the software all those credit card charges are good. I agree with all of them. The records in Total Office Manager agree with what I'm seeing on the internet or the piece of paper they sent me. Obviously, doing bank recs is not something you want just anyone to do, because this is a security situation here. Because we could have bogus charges. We could have fraudulent charges. We could have people buying stuff they shouldn't have bought. They could be buying things from a vendor and selling them on eBay. which I caught somebody doing, not here, but for a client. Many tens of thousands of dollars of charges, and they sold those parts on eBay. They were parts and equipment. And they happened to also do the bank rec, so they were able to cover themselves. So very few people should have permission to do this bank rec. So when I click reconcile now, I'm not changing cost of goods sold. I'm just simply paying the vendor. I'm creating a bill, but on my balance sheet, on my other reports, Visa got paid. Remember, Home Depot got paid a long time ago by Visa. Now we owe Visa. So we hit reconcile now. We're doing two things. We're saying that, yes, I agree with all these charges. All the math is correct. And number two, I want to pay Visa. And it'll either create a check for you or a bill like you saw earlier. Are you sure? Yeah. All right. So it's been reconciled. Now there's a bill. Would you like to create a report? Sure. So I can show it to you. Oops, the wrong thing. Let me get that. There it is. Get that up there for you. So here's a report on the rec. And if you want to save it, go ahead. I would. I'm not a big believer in doing things I don't have to do, but I do want to save this. So I'll click this little button right here and I'll turn it into a PDF and I'll save it somewhere. I could also print it if you needed to, but chances are there's no need to. Everything was good. I should save it though. And where do I put it? I'd put that in a folder for Visa. And I would have a folder called Visa Card 5411. And then inside that folder, I would have a folder called 2020 because that's the year this video is being made. And we're in June. I would have a folder for June. So that way I have a folder for every month and I would put all my credit card charges, bank recs, things like that in there in the proper folder. Now your credit card charges, I may have misspoke. You have a folder called Home Depot. That's where they go. But anything related to Visa, you'd put it in that 2020 folder. If you don't want to have monthly folders, that's fine. Just be sure to give the document a name that starts with the year, the month, the day, and then anything else you want. So that's really it. For extra credit, though, let's go to our pay bills just to see it. And you'll see Visa right there. And that's when you'd pay them. And when do we pay them? At the last moment. And how do we pay them? Maybe we mail them a check. Be sure to account for mailing time. Chances are you're probably going online and paying them. But that's how you make sure you pay people at the last minute. If anyone, this is extra credit too, if any vendor ever offers you a discount to pay early, take the discount. Take the discount. Pay them at the last minute, but take the discount. All right. Were there any questions on credit card charges? Credits, the whole topic. Okay. All right. So that's all there is to credit cards. Easy as that.